Well, welcome to our SIP. Thank you for coming. Like Anna mentioned, the title, All You Need to Know About Playable Ads. For me, it sounds a bit presumptuous, but it is my goal to share with you some of our experience and challenges that we faced while working with Playable Ads, sharing some small steps that might help you go the extra mile in your project. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Micah. I'm the tech sales developer here at Starloop. I like long walks by the beach and nah, well, who doesn't? Anyways, I work as a middleman between the sales team and the production team. But before I get into it, I'd like to give a shout out to the amazing people on the Playable Ads team here at Starloop. Without their hard work and progress, I wouldn't have anything to talk about. So thank you guys and keep up the good work. You're awesome. That said, down to business, in this presentation, I plan on sharing a brief introduction to what Playable Ads are. We all know what they are, but do we really? I'll mention some tricky catches that make working with Playable Ads a challenge. And after that, I'll discuss some solutions that can be used to confront these challenges, along with some pros and cons when comparing different approaches. Finally, I'll mention how we work here at Starloop and how we can help bring your project to life before opening up to some questions and answers at the end. Alrighty, I'm assuming most of you are gamers and have at least played some kind of game on some mobile device. While playing, at any given moment, an ad might pop up, and between levels or after dying. Playable ads fit into these categories of interstitial ads that come and interrupt gameplay. But instead of being just a flat image, they include a small, mini game that can be played. And I say it with these quotes because if you really stop and think about it, oftentimes they're simplified versions of the actual game. And that game is already a mini game. So really we're talking about super small stuff. All these playable ads tend to follow 3 basic steps or phases. First, they capture the user's attention and effectively immerse the user in the game and how to play. After playing a small demo, the users should be able to know whether or not they want to install the app and keep playing the game even more. At this point, a clear call to action, or CTA, is displayed, asking the users to install the app, usually taking the user to the App Store or the Google Play to download. We all know this format. We've seen it many times. But why do companies need playable ads? What benefits do they bring? Just to name a few of the many benefits, for example, maybe players download your game and then they uninstall it because it wasn't really what they were looking for. What if you could guarantee high lifetime value users early on in the game's life cycle? By playing a playable ad for your game first, you give the audience a chance to experience the gameplay before installation, therefore reducing the number of undesired app uninstalls and improving retention rates. You can also improve conversion rate. They help boost the conversion rate in your ad campaigns. By lowering the cost per acquisition and cost per click, they drive more engaged users and deliver a higher eCPM to publishers. And playable results, playable ads have up to 7 times higher click-through rates than a standard video ad. Sorry. Now, here's where we start to find the surprises and challenges that something apparently simple like a mini game start to bring. There's a catch. If you interrupt gameplay and show the user and force them to see your ad, that means you're forcing them to also download the ad and all of the minigame before it can even be shown. If this is on Wi-Fi, it's not a big deal. It wouldn't be very noticeable. But if your audience is using mobile data plans and your game takes 2 minutes to download, or even worse, uses up all of the user's monthly data, you'll end up with some very grumpy, no longer potential clients. So the size of the playable ad has to be restricted. But how much? Any ideas? Well, these sizes are restricted, and the games have to be between 2 to 5 megabytes, depending on the ad network. That is not much space at all. And to make things tricky, usually only one index file is permitted, so we can't have build folders either. So now wait, Micah, you're saying that we have to get an entire game into 2 megabytes? What? When I first discovered this, I didn't believe how this is possible. What kind of black magic is happening? So how do we cram an entire game into 2 megabytes? Well, It doesn't matter if the game build comes from a custom HTML framework or from Cocos or from Unity or wherever, it still needs to be simplified even more. And how so? Well, this simplification needs to also take into consideration all the assets, all the code, all the art, all the artificial intelligence, any game logic, everything that's necessary for the actual game. And it needs to go into one small file. Well, there has to be some kind of a simplification process, something that compresses all of that input into one file. And some techniques you can look into if you're interested. They include concatenating the code, putting code piece by piece, line behind line. You can also encode images in a long textual representation called base64. You can remove a bunch of empty spaces, which manually is horrible to be deleting space. It's horrendous. And you can zip all of the files when it's permitted, etc., etc. There are other methods as well. Now wait, again, there is another catch. Every ad network provider platform, for example, Unity Ads, IronSource, Vungle, Facebook Ads, AdColony, just to name a few because there's a ton, they all have their own requirements. Every company has their own requirements. There's no common ground. So some require 2 megabytes, some require 5. Some of them require to be in zipped folders, others no zipped. Some prohibit using a close button or the skip logic. You can't skip out of the game. Others say you have to have this version of Android or this version of iOS. There's so many different restrictions that it's very complicated. This means that whatever your target ad provider is, you need to follow their specific guidelines and requirements. But what works for one company might not work for the other. So with all of these limitations and restrictions in mind, what options do we have for actually making these playable ads? One option is to roll up our sleeves, grab some coffee, and get coding. With an HTML framework, there's many out there for you to pick and choose from. You can make pretty much anything. Your mind is the limit, and creativity and time and knowledge is really what's limiting you. But it depends heavily on a development team, and standalone artists can't do it by themselves. And standalone coders also can't do it because it looks ugly as crap. So you're kind of stuck. And once you have your own game made, you'll need to put it through this process of simplification to compress it down to one file in order to comply with the previously mentioned requirements. Another alternative is by concatenating videos. If you have people that are great with video editing, you can create mini videos for each action and then fuse them together. For example, your playable ad starts and then you push again and things move. And then when the sandwich finishes, you play another video. Your playable ad turns into a slideshow of videos, one right after another. App on Board is a great example of this process. It provides some helpful tools to detect user interaction, like swipes or taps, and pieces together video and sound effects to make an interactive playable ad. A nice benefit is that they handle the simplification and exporting process to multiple different platforms. It's super simple to use. Marketing and artists can work alone with it with no code required, but their biggest strength is also their biggest weakness. It's very limited to have a video, then another video, then another video, leaving no room for creative gameplay. Another alternative is to make a simplified, hard-coded version of the minigame. For example, in this match 3, the only move you can actually make is to swipe that one apple. Swipe, that's it. The rest of the ad could be just a solid picture, no game involved. There is no real match 3 game, it's just an illusion. Small video engines can be used here. For example, Coco Creator, Unity Tiny, Phaser, 2D Kit, etc. This method provides a good compromise between art and code. You can use powerful game engines, but you also need to handle the simplification method and export process. If you're interested in learning 2D Kit, they can export all of the ad platforms as well. So that's an awesome and a huge help, but the build process is handled in the cloud, and you're also limited to the functionalities of their engine. Here's a list of some of our favorites, each of which have their own strengths and weaknesses. 2D Kit and App on Board I've already mentioned. UD Tiny is cool, but it's still in preview and requires knowledge about ECS. Cocos uses JavaScript, but a lot of its documentation is in Chinese. Luna Labs works specifically for ads made within Unity. And then there's a bunch of other HTML frameworks for you to choose. And I also provide some links for GitHub projects, specifically an exporter from Cocos to Facebook ads, and a base project for a simplifier. Now, all the methods I've presented were each limited in some area, requiring either an artist or some custom code or video editing knowledge. These requirements aren't an issue here at Starloop, since we have experts in every field. When a client comes asking if we can make them a playable ad, we study each case individually and choose the best according to the client's specific needs. We handle all the steps in the pipeline, from gathering info from the client, designing a storyboard to say what needs to be made for the playable ad, then creating the necessary art and code and video assets, before finally simplifying and/or editing the final ad before returning the finished product to our clients. We'd be happy to help. Just let us know how we can help. Finally, I personally believe that there's a better solution. It always exists. There has to be. So we don't claim to know that best solution, but we're always looking for it. So please, if you know any better solution or alternative, I'd be happy to discuss them. I hope you've enjoyed this little journey through the world of playable ads. Thank you for your time and attention. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.